So, our next speaker is Dr. Brian Walker, as I said, or mentioned, from WA Legalise Cannabis MLC. His topic is stripping off for the cannabis cause. Ooh, stripping. Love it. I'll just do the bio. LCWA party member Dr. Brian Walker officially won a seat in WA's upper house after getting 9,200 first preference votes in the 2021 election. Brian LCWA colleague Sophia Mormont made history as the first cannabis candidate to be elected to an Australian Parliament. Dr. Walker is a GP who works in Serpentine in Perth South. He joined Legalise Cannabis WA when it first formed in December 2020 and is one of Australia's newest political parties. Congratulations. In the 2021 election, LCWA won about 2% of the popular vote, which is remarkable for such a new party. Dr. Walker believes that WA should legalise the use of recreational cannabis and has described it as safer, air quotes, than alcohol, tobacco. Totally true. There's about here that has been written. Back in May 2022, Brian caused a stir after tweeting a photo of himself naked with only a strategically placed pot plant covering his modesty. The photo, posted to celebrate World Naked Gardening Day, was captioned, "I should be holding a cannabis plant, but the government won't let me. Take an eyeful of this as punishment, Premier McGowan." During this talk, Brian will discuss the issues around legalising cannabis in Western Australia. So, take it away, Dr. Brian. Hold on, 1 second. Feedback on the mic?
No, it's, I think it's also suffering a bit from heat stroke.
Oh, do you want to swap? Let's swap.
Otherwise I'll get you a wire.
Heat stroke, she says. I can absolutely guarantee I will not strip off in front of you. That's a promise. So everyone's going to vanish now. Now, legalising cannabis in Western Australia, but I thought you might like to know.
Is it any better here?
Oh, wait.
I'll have to get a wide mic, I'm sorry.
He has to get a wide mic. Can we wait 2 minutes? Time on that, Lumpy? He's just going to get a wide mic. Just to make it. 1 second, please.
Keep trying, Keep trying. Oh, it's probably unplugged.
Has it been switched off? It's been switched off.
Just running the lead out for you.
Yeah, good on.
Just suffering heat stroke. Changing mics. Sorry.
It is warm, isn't it?
It's very warm.
Is that my phone?
No, it's not mine.
Oh, there's my phone. Oh, there's studio phone, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's all good. All right, mic's coming.
So it's bad now.
Here we go.
Okay, sorry everyone, it's chaos. That's your switch. That'll be on now. So if you
How's that?
have a say.
How is that working?
Oh, wrong one. Go.
Is that working?
Yes.
Are we going now?
Not yet.
Are we going now?
Yes, we are now.
Better? Quiet?
Yeah.
Can you turn it up a little bit, please?
Yeah.
Yeah. Still going stronger. Higher, higher.
Yeah.
I love it. I can hear myself. Okay. Right now. So I thought you might like to know the newest political party. Now, a bit of the background here. The party in Western Australia was formed, I think, a few months before. In November 2020, the first moves were made, and it was actually in January 2021 that the party was officially registered. And we got elected just a few weeks later, in March. So with very little in the way of advertising, if any at all, just on the basis of the name, we got a very significant vote. Forward about a year to the federal election, And we went from a statewide 2% to a statewide 3.3%, with almost no advertising. People are simply looking at the name and saying, right, I want this, I want something different. But now we're getting cracking, now we're really beginning to work. What has happened in Western Australia? Well, first of all, when I went into Parliament, the first thing that happened to me was a quick thought. The day after I got elected, I was thinking that, what the actual fuck? Now I've got to do everything different. I'm going to lose my job. It's all new. So I rock up into Parliament a few weeks later to get the induction. And myself and Sophia, we sit there in front of the parliamentary officers who are introducing us to the new life we're going to lead. And they're looking at us, expecting to find dreadlocks and stoners sitting in front of them. And what do they find? They find the registered nurse and the doctor asking sensible questions. And they are thinking, oh. And a week or so later, we're sitting with our new colleagues in the chamber, and they're asking, okay, fine, where are you from? Liberals, yeah, okay, Labour, yep, fine, Nationals, yes. What about you? So Legalise Cannabis. And universally, they all went, oh, yes. And they made us a, like that, the Weed Party. They thought absolutely nothing of us, disrespectful, because we supported a healthy, healing herb, about which they had only heard negative propaganda. And they reflected that on us, and looked down at us as being unworthy of sharing time with them. Boy, were they wrong. Because what they discovered is that they got two professionals in the House who actually speak with authority and indeed power. The power that we're looking here at science, we're looking at facts, we're looking here at truth. Now, it's probably true that truth is not a great feature in politics. It's all about perception, not about truth. And so here we are, trying to get truth in politics, and not finding a great perception. So there I am, a freshly minted politician. And people say to you, okay, so what job do you do? Well, I'm a part-time doctor and a full-time politician. And they're thinking, oh yeah, okay, fine, a politician. I'm not going to like a politician. They're liars, they're cheats, they're thieves, useless, waste of time, waste of space. That's correct, all of that. Except for us. So we're moving into this new life of representing the people who elect us. And this is something which has always bothered me, because when we get up and say, I am the elected member for, in my case, East Metropolitan Region, most often politicians don't say that. They say, I'm a member of the Labour Party. I represent the Labour Party for this area. Which basically means that you, in that area, your wishes, your regards come last, because my party is going to decide what you want. And if you don't agree with us, you're actually you're of the wrong mind. We're going to convince you that you're wrong. So the party rules. How does that mirror itself when we're talking about cannabis? Well, Sophia and I have both spoken out every day, I think, mentioning cannabis. Just the other day, Sophia put out a motion there, looking at cannabis being freed. And we got the reply back from the official reply from the Labour Party, which was negative. We have no intention at this moment of looking at cannabis. And it was politely done, but very firmly. We're not having a bar of this. Well, do you know, after that, I went round to the person who gave that message, lovely man, Darren West, and said, Darren, thank you, because he did it very politely, with respect. He turns to me, and don't repeat this anywhere else, don't repeat this. He said to me, you know that's not what I think. Now, David, just a while back, said after this, the politicians, yes, we didn't really mean that, but, you know, we had to say what we have to say. This is normal. I think most of the politicians in our upper house agree with us, but they don't dare say so. So here we are, elected members on the basis of cannabis, how do we actually get our movement going forward? So here we are, as a fresh Member of Parliament. How do I achieve the impossible? How do we achieve the impossible? And the answer is we do it politically. So I have had a large, very slow, but very important learning curve on how to actually achieve the impossible. You know what? We're doing it. It might not be tomorrow, it might not be this year, it might not be in 5 years' time, but this is a war we are going to win. One of the first things I had to learn was you can't achieve this immediately. And you can't do this by pointing out truth. You can't do it by pointing out science, because none of that actually matters. What matters for us is how we put this across, how we make the message, how we create the perception. So there I was, let's go to the background there I was, having this picture taken. My wife didn't know what she was doing. I said, here, honey, take a picture, holding this pot plant. Okay, fine. She thought it was just my personal records. To find it trending #1 around the world on Twitter was actually a little bit of a shock, not for everyone, myself included. My wife was horrified. And every single member of the upper house, the Legislative Council, has seen it. And every single one of them has said, please, Brian, don't do this again. See the power of perception, the power of the message. And see that the way we bring that message across isn't with anger, it's with humour, with understanding, indeed with love. Because by forcing it, by making enemies, by being aggressive, by being nasty, we don't achieve anything. You know yourselves. If you and your significant other are having a problem, shouting about it doesn't actually win the argument. Look, it might for the time being stop a problem, but it creates a much bigger problem going on. Politics is about managing relationships. It's about creating a perception that others can agree with. So here we are. What have I learned from becoming a politician? First of all, I love it. I know, it's strange. I entered politics because I was angry. I was angry because I saw patients, my patients were dying or suffering because they didn't have access to healthy healing medication. Not just cannabis, but also the psychedelic-assisted therapies. But cannabis was the main point. You're being refused a healing herb for no good reason. I was angry. So I went into politics because I wanted to fix this problem. The second thing I learned was I have to relearn everything I know about relationships. I have to behave differently. I have to smile when I want to rip your head off. I have to be politically correct and saying the right things in the right way and not what my heart is telling me. So this is one reason, probably, why people don't like politicians, because we don't speak the truth. It's not about speaking the truth. It's about speaking in such a way that your message gets heard. Now we know from counselling, we know from teaching people how to actually change their approach. You need to say something 8 times, around about 8 times before it gets heard. So we have to repeat our message at least 8 times. That someone somewhere is going to hear us in the chamber. It's a slow process. So over the last year, what have we done? Well, the first thing we had to do was to change the perception of who we are. Again, not truth, not science, the perception of who we are. But I think the truth is I'm a pretty good guy. I think I'm pretty knowledgeable, but no one else knows that. They had to have the perception that the person they're speaking to is knowledgeable, truthful, respectful. And the only way you can do that is by behaving in that way. So I get up in Parliament and I speak, not aggressively, not in a negative way, but I just simply speak the truth in a voice which is welcoming, which is seeking understanding, which is seeking that we come together as one. Because, as politicians, we have sworn to serve the people, not our party. We swear when we come into Parliament to serve the people who elected us, our state. The parties are nowhere mentioned. And so, bearing that in mind, what I do is I seek to serve the people. You on this side and you on this side are all seeking to serve the same people I serve. Let's work together. And that is actually quite an unusual message. So in that year, we have consistently brought the message out that we are there to work with unity, with love, with harmony, for all people's benefit, seeking truth, seeking the benefit of our state, doing what politicians should do. Now, I was quite surprised to find that this is not normal. It's absolutely not normal. I speak to my colleagues in the Labour Party who have no concept of what I am doing. Because what they are doing is they're doing what the party tells them to. Go out and see the electorate here, present to this, represent the ministry here, say this in Parliament. They're not actually free to speak. The Liberal side, the National side, the same. They've got officers there which say, you will say this, you will go there, you will do this. It's all very regulated and organised. Now, the crossbench, we don't have that. Speaking just for the Legalise Cannabis Party, we are blessed with the ability of speaking truly from the heart. Because the party recognised that we're not simply a single-issue party. We represent the people. And the people don't care just about cannabis, they care about everything. Cannabis among them. So Sophia and I have the blessing of being truly free, perhaps the only truly free people in that parliament. Because we can speak on any subject, any way we like, as long as we're representing what is heartfelt and what represents the people that we represent. We're not constrained by anything. That's one beautiful thing that our executive has given us, is freedom. You can, as long as you speak about cannabis, supporting cannabis, you can speak about anything you want. But speak from the heart, speak truthfully. And so we are very lucky. For example, when it comes to COVID. Now that's, of course, not cannabis related, except, of course, if you understand that the acid form of cannabis, THCA and CBDA and CBGA, might actually prevent the spike protein from entering the cell nucleus. Could that be a cure for cannabis? I don't know. Does it help people? Very likely. So possibly cannabis can be a cure for COVID. We can speak about that, but let's look at the COVID vaccination, because you see, COVID and COVID vaccination, Sophia and I have taken different paths. She has not told her point of view to Parliament, not told what her status is, and she got thrown out of Parliament. I declared that I was vaccinated. I could stay in Parliament. What we have done there, first of all, Sophia has stood up for her rights because she can, because she must, because she believes this. And she represents a significant part of our population who share that point of view. And that is right so. Whereas I was a good little boy. I did what I was told. It also made me sick. It gave me myocarditis. But I did the right thing. And I represented a significant part of the population, doing what I should do, as a member of Parliament, representing my electorate. But we had very different points of view, and we put them out as representatives must do, truthfully. For example, if we had a member of Parliament for Connemara in the north, and a member of Parliament for Albany in the south, I would hope that they would say and ask for different things for their electorate, because they need different things. They don't need the same policy in two parts, very different parts of the country. We need to represent the people, not the party. And this is something that I want to bring out as Legalise Cannabis. In contrast to the Greens, which is very much in the same mould as the Labour and the Liberals and the Nats, where their party structures demand that they follow certain policies. We actually are fairly unformed in that. We only have the one policy of legalising cannabis, legalising a healthy, healing herb, and this is our main focus. But we are also there freely to represent the people, and the people often want something the government doesn't. And it's right and proper that we represent everybody. So that's something I've also learned here, that the politics can be done differently. I don't know what you think when you listen to Question Time. I simply feel anger. I feel anger that we have wasted time, effort and money on politicians who are worse behaved than a kindergarten, who are asking stupid questions, riling people up, refusing answers. Listen to our Question Time in the Upper House, and you get angry as well. I ask a question, it doesn't get answered. I ask a sensible question, and I get a stupid answer. I even get wrong answers. And I protest that, and they say, the answer is what you get given. You question is what you're allowed to have, the answer is what the government thinks fit. Any sensible person would get angry. And this whole policy here, if I'm in opposition, therefore I'm going to oppose, I'm in government, therefore I'm going to rule. This, I think, is destroying our democracy. I am seeking a different political life. I am seeking a politics where we represent the people, where the people have a voice, and where what's needed in the population is what the government chooses to do. Now take, for example, driving with THC. The whole population, bar 20%, would agree that measuring THC only is not a good measure of impairment when driving. To take the medicine that I as a doctor prescribe, and then as a police officer saying, right, now you're a criminal, now you're going to get fined, you're going to not be able to travel to America because you've now been declared a drug user. This is against all natural justice. And 80% of our population agree with me. Why is the government not doing that? Well, because the government is filled with politicians. And the politicians don't do what is right, they do what is perceived to be right. And at the moment, their perception is not being guided by the people. I'm pointing to the activists here. We haven't got enough activists out there telling the government how stupid they are. We haven't got enough activists out there making it unpleasant for the government to stand up and say how well they're doing. So what I would like to do is to put my particular approach to politics and change as an activist who is now a politician. And that is that we need to do things a little bit differently. I would like very much to encourage the people to get angry by pointing out how stupid the laws currently are. Not just in cannabis, by the way. Psychedelic-assisted therapies, how we're treating juveniles in prison, how we're treating domestic violence, how we're treating homelessness, how we're treating the indigenous life, how we're disrespecting the First Nations people. There's so many things that we want to get up and say, this is not right. We need people to stand up and say, we disagree. We want something better than this. We are better than this. We have elected people we thought were better than this. Stand up and do what is right. And the only way we can do that as politicians of a minor party in Parliament is to get our social media involved. So you, activists, need to help us by spreading our social media message. Make the country set ablaze. Overgrow the government. Overgrow the government. We need you. We absolutely need you. Yes, you've elected us, and you will elect people in Victoria. You will elect people in New South Wales, and this will be an electable case in the next federal election. We are going to have legalised cannabis elected. They'll be part of the crossbench. This is inevitable. It will happen. We're going to follow Thailand. We're even going to follow Malaysia. God help us. If Malaysia can beat us, we can surely copy on. The second thing I want to bring forward is that we need to make a solution for government. We need to give an answer that government can say, of course, we knew all along we're doing the right thing, we're going to follow the people. How are we going to do that? Well, this is my job. Making it clear to the government that you could profit. We heard David speaking about the taxes and how much benefit it would be. We are going to do this, exactly this. We're going to make it so clear to the government that by not legalising cannabis, you're depriving yourself of a huge windfall in taxes, a huge windfall in benefits to the people. And with that, you could build how many hospitals? You could fund how many aged care? You could look after our veterans how much better? You could fund how much research? All of this you could do if you only got your act together and followed the will of the people, and by the way, it will bring you a fortune. This is not just about medicinal cannabis, it's 5% of the total budget we could earn, 5%. The whole hemp industry is something that we can latch onto. We could send hemp into space. Not just being spaced out, we could send hemp into space. We can, did you know there's actually a hemp, well, you can make hemp batteries, but you can make hemp laminate there, which would form from the sunlight, forms electricity, turning our hemp colour-bond roof into a source of electricity for a house made of hemp, which doesn't need heating in winter or cooling in summer. Can you imagine the benefit to our population? Can you imagine the innovation which would be there, which would allow our society to develop? Looking here at developing houses which are safe in a bushfire prone area where you could build a place where you could take a refuge rather than being burned to a cinder when the fires come through. We're looking at hemp as a solution to, say, carbon capture to improving topsoil, to improving the water supplies by protecting the rivers. Hemp as a way of rejuvenating our society, rejuvenating our land. This is a solution which any government, if they had but half a brain, would say, yes, we want this, we want it now, we can do this now. So this is the journey I've been through as a politician in my first year of discovering just how powerful hemp and cannabis is, just how powerful our voices can be, and just how much we need to work together. Everybody in Nimbin, everybody who is involved in the hemp and cannabis as activists, as users, as supporters, and how all of us as politicians can work together for the benefit of the people. So my eye-opening has been, we can make change. My opening has been, I can help make change happen. Another eye-opening is that I can help make change happen with you and me, all of us, holding hands and working together, because we are one. We are one people, and as one nation, we will make change.
Is this still on? Awesome. Can I get a really big round of applause for this lovely gentleman? We have a few minutes for questions, but we only have this mic, so if people are interested in asking questions, and I do encourage that, please come up. Has anybody got questions? Anybody? Beulah? Would you like to come up? Here, I have this thing that I can wipe it down with.
Thanks for the great talk. My name's David. I guess a big challenge we have is that there are lobby groups that don't want cannabis legalised, so the pharmaceutical industry and the alcohol industry, because their market share is under great threat from this wonderful plant. So how are we combating those lobby groups with our own efforts, and is there any way to get government out of bed with these powerful lobby groups?
Lobby groups, love them. One of our powerful groups working against us is actually the Christian lobby. And they're sending everybody information which is actually lies. So what we're doing with them is we're actually putting the truth out there and saying, how could you, as a believer in Christ, how could you put lies out there? Christ isn't a liar. Okay, why are you doing that? And so we can shame them into not actually telling lies. When it comes to the pharma, well, we know big pharma is always going to be a problem. So I've been actually speaking with the pharma groups themselves and saying, right, okay, fine. This is inevitable. It's going to become free. You simply selling cannabis, you're not going to be a glorified, expensive cannabis dealer yourself. What you can do is you can make profits other ways. For example, if you've got, say, CBG for treating childhood epilepsy, which is excellent, by the way, you can focus on isolating CBG and making that work and testing that and giving up ready-made medicine, because if your child has got epilepsy, you're not going to find the best by growing it in your back garden and giving it to your child. You want to have something which has been tried and tested and proved. That's your job. That's where you can make your money. The alcohol groups, that's another one there as well, where they're saying, yes, well, we want to keep our process the only one there. There, I think I wouldn't work with them at all. Alcohol is a major killer. In our area of Perth, in Northbridge, every Friday, every Saturday, there's assaults, people are being attacked, people are being killed. And that the driving force for that is actually alcohol. So we're having a societal degradation. Our recent troubles with Banksia Hill and the prisons there, and the youth being sent to Casuarina, the adult prison, because they are no longer manageable, that wasn't just because they were taking drugs at a time. It's because from the time they were born up until that moment, they have been abused, physically abused, mentally abused, sexually abused. They have been exposed to alcohol at a young age, drugs at a young age, petrol sniffing, glue sniffing. They've been unsupervised, they've been unloved, uncared for. You cannot develop a healthy life if you've been treated like that, if you have been an object of utter abuse and vilification. There's no way you're going to be a reasonable, healthy member of society. So you, as the alcohol purveyors, who are helping to make that worse by giving alcohol to their mothers and making their children sick, and involving yourself in transgenerational sickness and disease and disaster, you are not part of this conversation. You don't belong, because you're destroying society. And bringing out that evidence, well, we're never going to, and we shouldn't ban alcohol. We're going to have nothing should be banned. We're not going to allow you to become, say, the alcohol equivalent of the American NRA, where guns are killing children. We can control that, we can regulate that, but we're not going to let you regulate us. We regulate you. So for that lobby group, I would have no mercy at all. No. We'll permit it, control it, and you can't tell us what to do with our lives. So I would be very, very strong on that. And I make no apologies for that. I'm very much, I'm a doctor and I'm in favour of wellness. Now, it can also be said, I'll have to shade that, I enjoy a glass of gin and tonic or a whiskey, and if you see me this evening, you'll probably see me making that clear. But I'm also in favour of wellness when it comes to other choices. So an excess of this is no good. Me depending upon you, okay, the big lobby group, you want to make your money. I'm not going to allow that to happen. Okay, you are dangerous for me. The same can also be said, by the way, of the food processing industry, which I think is the #1 killer of our society. We need real food. And here cannabis is part of that. Because if you take, say, the leaves of the cannabis plant, make a healthy smoothie of that, that is a wonderful food for bodybuilding, for keeping yourself healthy, a drink before you go out to work when you haven't got time for breakfast. We can use the nature, what nature has given us, and turn that into something healthy and healing for us all. So those lobby groups we can speak to in a number of ways, either supportive or indeed just making very clear where they belong. And understanding that we as a people demand that which is good for us as a people. I speak too much.
Lovely voice then. Yeah, would you like to ask a question?
I want to know, as an individual, whether I'll be able to go cannabis for myself as much as I want for myself without any repercussions.
Now, we saw earlier from David Shoebridge the excellent Greens bill they're putting in. Kate Fairman spoke about that earlier. We ourselves also are creating a bill, thanks to Sophia Mormont. That bill is currently in process of being worked. And what we plan to do is to allow a certain number of plants to be grown and double that number of plants if you've got medicinal needs. So the answer is yes, that is our aim. We aim to legalise cannabis, not decriminalise it.
So that means that if I want to grow for a whole heap of other people or not?
Now that's an interesting question, growing for a whole heap of other people. That is part of the cooperative support that the Greens are putting out. That's something we are considering as well. It's a very sensible thing. The problem is really going to be with the need to regulate. For example, if you have someone who's going to be growing hydroponically, say 10,000 plants, I'm not certain that the chemicals that are needed for the hydroponic growth are going to be the best for our general wellness. And so I'd really be very careful about people who are growing, yes, I grow the best, but how is it grown? So we need to be very careful about regulating how it is grown. So I can't answer your question, but this is the important thing. When we take our legislation, our bill out to the public, that is exactly the kind of thing we want to be hearing from people, so we can craft our answer. So the answer is, we're still working on it. Don't know.
Yeah, because most people just want to do it themselves.
Now, most people want to do it for themselves. That's true. I would like to grow, say, 4 or 6 plants in my own house. That would be fantastic. The trouble is, if I want to grow from my village, for example, say for 30 people, I need to have different standards. And we need to be very careful about this free slather. The American project there that they had has actually fallen flat. We need to be very careful about how we do that. So the structure of how we create cannabis free in our society isn't as simple as simply giving a seed to everybody and say, plant this and have fun.
Why not? We did it ages ago. Why can't we go back to it instead of the legalisation? But all it's doing is causing more issues and problems with society.
I agree entirely. The reason for being careful with this is we need to watch out for quality and purity. If in the past we had hemp, which was grown freely with no regulation at all, that made the sails and the ropes which brought the boats out to Australia. That's part of European history, using it for your purposes, for silage, for clothing, all that is fine. What I would be careful with is actually using it as a medicine for home healing. Now in Nepal, every village grows hemp cannabis naturally. It's used for thousands of years as a natural medicine used for home. I'm very much in favour of that. We have, however, had a number of generations of cannabis being grown, which has been very high in THC, and I'm wondering if that's going to be the best, if that really represents what it used to be. What used to be, for example, in the 60s was, I think, very different from the way it is now. Now, I've got no scientific knowledge to back that up, but I want to check that. So again, these are important questions that I want to have a look at before we say, right, here's your seeds, go and grow what you want. My basic premise, though, in answer to you, is that I would agree entirely, we need to be free to grow what we want, use it how we want, and when we want.
One last question. One last question. Good time. Do you want to? Yep. Okay. Throw it from there. Perfect.
You mentioned before about the pharmaceutical industry in terms of lobbying, being able to isolate specific parts, the spectrum of CBDs and THCs, that would be useful for different things. I'm wondering, because quite often patenting is something that they're very interested in, and how that might affect their lobbying interests, and what your thoughts are about patenting essentially something which nature made.
Patenting nature, I think, is a crime against humanity and ought to be punished by something close to death. The Americans a while back wanted to patent DNA, our natural DNA, and make money from it. A pox on you. But no, we're not going to have that. For the pharmaceutical companies, let's take, for example, what would be a good example? Let's take a simple example, nausea. Okay. We've got not just the cannabinoids, the terpenes, the quercetins, your bioflavonoids, a whole host of parts of the cannabis plant. If you have, say, nausea, and you've grown, say, your 2 plants because you want to smoke cannabis, because you want to relax after a hard day's work, what you've grown there may not be suitable for nausea. So what we need is a pharmaceutical company which has discovered that this group of cannabinoids with these terpenes under these conditions are good for nausea, and it won't have that and that side effect. So you can go out and you can buy that and take it, and still have your own cannabis for use for when you come back from work. Same thing for, there's a little child a while back, has half his brain removed, brain cancer. And he was having 50 epileptic seizures a day on a full dose of medication, zombified the child, and the neurologist said, well, we can't do anything more. And the mother said, well, could you please give him some CBD? No, they said, we can't, but if you find a doctor who will prescribe, try that. So they came to me, and 2 days after they got the script, his seizures went down from 50 a day to 10 a day. Now, it could be better. I would like very much to get the seizures down to 0. He's coming off the medication, by the way, so we're working on that. Question of dose, but I would like very much to be able to say, I'm going to add some more CBG to this, and I haven't got enough in this preparation. And that's where the pharma companies come in. They can give more and more of that for this specific problem, and I can't grow that myself. So that's where they need to be, with the quality control and the indications and which part of what is going to be useful. And that's where their science goes, and that's why it costs so much money. So there's a difference here between your recreational use, which has medicinal uses too, making Rick Simpson oil for cancer, by all means. Okay? But when it comes to specific things, the pharma companies are going to want to take their cut. And they should do that not by taking our cannabis, but by developing their cannabis.
It seems like the kind of thing, because obviously if they put the money into research, they're going to want to see a return for that, and profit, and a protection of their intellectual property. It sort of seems tricky. It seems like, to me, like it'd be better if it was independently, maybe, publicly funded.
Well, even then, they would want to they can't really patent it. Well, they can for a while. If they said we had this percent CBD, this percent CBG, this percent of the acid form, these terpenes under these additions will be good for this, then you can't get another company coming along for, say, 6 or 10 years and saying, we've got the same, but it's better, buy ours at a cheaper price. So you can see for a while they're going to have their profits. Then when they're out of that patent period, boom, the price comes down and the copycats come in. So I can see where that would have a role. But what they cannot do is take the cannabis seed that you and I would buy or grow, and then say, we will patent that seed, you can't have that anymore. The answer should be no.
All right. Thank you.
Big applause. Thank you, Dr. Barnwell. Very much appreciated. Our next act is Olivia Barlow and Snip Off. Is there an Olivia Barlow in the crowd? Hi. Awesome. So would you like to do the same?